Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. So, this is a deck profile that I've been very eager to get into. Although it doesn't use any of the new support, it does feature a card that recently came off the limited list and is now at 3, and that is our good friend Speedroid Terrortop. I love this card. I'm very, very excited this card is at 3. It enables a lot of really cool engines, and just not the usual stuff you might be used to seeing. And I think even already I'm comfortable saying this card is fine at 3. It's definitely not going to break the meta. I did see when this card got announced going to 3, people being like, or at least one comment or one tweet or something I saw that was like, oh my gosh, now you can invoke your Zodiac's going to be tier 1. It's like, nah, Zodiac's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But it does give a pretty significant power boost as well to Adventure Phantom Knight. Adventure Phantom Knight is a deck that I have played quite a bit in the past, and honestly is one of my favorite decks. I don't play it as often as I should, because this deck really did not get that much worse. I feel like a lot of people get surprised whenever they see this deck doing well. It's like, whoa, Phantom Knight, that deck is still good? And it's like, yeah, it is. This deck has been good the whole time, by the way. I mean, you can go back and look at the videos. As soon as Water Enchantress and Fusion Destiny went to 1, I said multiple times on video that people are sleeping on this deck, and those cards being limited don't mean anything, because if you open the ability to go into the Cherubini, which you can do with Terrortop, or you can do with something like Torn Scales plus Silent Boots, is a pretty typical turn 1 combo line. That combo line will set up Enchantress from the deck to the graveyard, and then also make Vert for the Fusion Destiny. So these cards getting hit had no bearing on this deck's combo line and performance, but again, for whatever reason, when those cards get limited, everyone was like, ah, Phantom Knight, the deck's done. And as you can see, again, I'm not playing, like, any new cards at all, really. Aside from the second and third copies of Terrortop, no new cards in the latest selection pack, or the latest few even, have made their way in here. The only thing that's really super different about this list, as opposed to, like, lists from, like, a year and a half ago, again, aside from the Terrortops, are the Droll and Lockbirds, which, of course, we're playing Droll and Lockbird, because it's this meta. Even before Super Heavy Samurai, Droll and Lockbird was already an insane card this meta, and that is definitely the case for the post-selection pack meta, naturally. So, you might also notice, wonder of wonders, I'm playing 42 cards. Yeah, because Adventure Phantom Knight really is one of those decks that's got, like, so much gas and engine going on. Like, for me, if I'm at a point where I put in Maxx's and Ash Blossoms and Call By and Cross Out, and then on my engine, and then I'm at 40, which, as you can see, was literally the case here, then that's when I start to be like, okay, maybe it's actually good to go above 40 here, to not only fit the stuff that you want to, the disruption, but again, if you're already playing that much engine, it's pretty indicative of the fact that you're going to open multiple engine pieces a lot of the time. So, but yeah, I mean, this deck is great. I love Adventure Phantom Knight. So, for those who, because it's been a while since this deck has been, around the block, so to speak, for those who are kind of unaware about what this deck is all about, basically the idea is, if you open a way to get 2 level 3s on board, which for us is Terrortop, or again, something like Silent or Torn Scale plus Silent Boots, then you can link into the Cherubini. Cherubini gets to send the Water Enchantress directly from the deck to the graveyard, and then that will then set up your full adventure line by adding the Rite, which will set up the Fateful, and then you can summon and add the Equip spell and search the Gryphon Rider, yada yada. We all know that part, right? From there, we continue to go into our Phantom Knight line until we can set up the Rusty Bardish. Rusty Bardish allows us to set a Fog Blade, which is a negate directly from the deck, as well as adding even more fuel to our graveyard. And then from there, we make a Divert, and then we make the DPE. And Gryphon, DPE, Fog Blade might not sound like a lot as far as, like, disruption that you make with your turn 1 board goes, but it's a lot more impactful than I think a lot of people realize. And in fact, even more so than I realize, because even as I say that out loud, it doesn't sound particularly impressive to me, but it's usually enough to carry you through to your follow-up turn, assuming you went first. And the very, very cool thing about Phantom Knight is that by the natural process of doing your turn 1 plays, you'll fully set up your graveyard to be able to completely come back. In fact, have been a lot of games with Phantom Knight where I'll have my full turn 1 board wiped, and I can still very easily set up like an access code or an Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon OTK going into my follow-up turn only off of stuff that's in the graveyard. Because, again, not only are we setting up all the Phantom Knight stuff in the yard, which all have very relevant graveyard effects, but on top of that, the DPE Fusion Destiny summon will put in Denier and Mali, and even Denier plus Mali, that's already 3 bodies for follow-up, right? You banish Mali to summon 1 from deck, you special Denier, Denier puts the banished Mali back in the deck, and then when your second Mali hits the graveyard, you can summon out the first one again. So, again, the DPE by itself, already setting up 3 bodies in the graveyard, that's already like a Nightmare Unicorn, like Dark into Nightmare Unicorn by itself, so... the comeback potential for this deck is huge, and I love that about it. Again, I just love everything about this deck in general. Fun fact, the last IRL TCG event I played in 2016, I actually played Phantom Knight. I played PK Fire. Phantom Knight Burning Abyss was a very, very good deck at the time, so had a lot of fun playing it too. Just, I love this archetype. It's so cool. But again, yeah, extra deck and even main deck, we're not doing anything fancy. We're not doing anything like super specific against Super Heavy Samurai or any other one deck in the meta. And as you're about to see in these duels coming up, we're still able to go toe-to-toe with a lot of the current decks out there. Also, the games that you're about to see are yet another case of viewer duels that we did on our Twitch stream. So if you're interested in participating in some viewer duels or otherwise checking out this stream in general, would highly recommend you go to the description below. There you will find a link over to my Twitch page. You can follow or sub over on Twitch, and that'll give you notifications of when I stream. I also post my stream schedule on my Twitter. I even pin it as my pinned tweet, so that way everyone can just see it there. Twitter link also going to be in the description below. But let's go ahead and knock out this list card by card, and then we'll see some of those games there. So we are on 2 Droll Knockbird, 3 Maxx, 3 Speedroid Terrortop, 1 Speedroid Taketamborg. We've got 2 the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak, 3 the Phantom Knights of Silent Boots, 1 the Phantom Knights of Ragged Glove, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 3 the Phantom Knights of Torn Scales, 1 Destiny Hero Denier, 1 Water Enchantress of the Temple, 2 Destiny Hero Malicious, 1 Wandering Gryphon Rider, 1 Foolish Burial, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 2 Fusion Destiny, 2 Rite of Aramesir, 1 Dracoback, the Rideable Dragon, 1 Fateful Adventure, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Crossout Designator, 1 Phantom Knight's Wing, 1 the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine, and 3 Phantom Knights Fogblade. That'll do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we are on 1 Destiny Hero, Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, aka DPE. We've got 1 Leviair the Sea Dragon, 2 the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, 1 Raiders Knight, 1 Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon, 1 Divine Arsenal Zeus Sky Thunder, 1 Lake Spider, 1 Salamangreat Almirage, 1 Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss, 1 Predaplant Vert Anaconda, 1 Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, 1 the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish, and then finally 1 Access Code Talker. That'll do it for our list. Let's go ahead and see these games. Alright, I know exactly what game we gotta start off with, because it was wild. It's gonna be a duel against Ronin Toten. Ronin Toten is on Super Heavy Samurai, so we're gonna see how an old meta deck contends with one of the newer ones. We do get to take the first turn here, opening pretty well, actually. Starting off with the Torn Scale, using that to discard the Ancient Cloak and then set up the Wing in the graveyard. Note that because I used the Torn Scales effect after normal summoning it, I can now no longer go for the adventure line. Something very, very important to keep in mind is that if you do end up having to do this, which sometimes you do for your turn 1 plays, just know that you will not be able to do the adventure setup following. So, gonna send the Ancient Cloak and then banish it to add the Silent Boots, linking the 2 of these, Torn Scale and Silent Boots, for the Cherubini. Again, remember, we use Torn Scale's effect after normal summoning it, so we're not sending Water Enchantress here. I instead am going to send the Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves. As a tip for playing this deck, if you're ever unsure of what to send from your deck to the graveyard in regards to Phantom Knights cards because you don't know what you're going to need later, send Ragged Gloves. Ragged Gloves is cool because it can send any Phantom Knights card from the deck to the graveyard, including the trap cards. So, again, if you want to maintain flexibility for what you might not, or for what you might need later, you might not know at the current time, I always recommend sending Ragged Gloves. It's the most flexible mill from this deck. So, Maxx going to come out following the wing activation. I'm going to go ahead and throw out my called by against that there. Alright, now that that is taken care of, we're going to go ahead and use our wing effect, resolve that, to bring back that same Ragged Glove. This will proc the Torrent Scales in order to summon itself. I get to set and then activate Shade Brigandine, now linking these two cards off in order to summon the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardish. Bardish F is going to attempt to activate to set up a Fog Blade, but Ronatone's going to throw out the Gamma here against the Bardish, so it's a little annoying, but honestly, I think I'd rather have the Bardish get Gamma than the Vert. Oh wait, we're not going for Vert just yet. We need to go for Leviair first. This is actually a very important part of your turn 1 combo. Might not seem like it, but you do need to summon Leviair, and then link off whatever you summon off of Leviair and itself for Vert, rather than just these two monsters, because when Torrent Scale is summoned by its own effect, and when a Phantom Knight monster is summoned by Wings or Fogblade, they will get banished when they leave the field, and we very, very much want these cards to go into the graveyard. This will also allow us to get that Ancient Cloak out of our banished pile and put it in the graveyard, making sure that we have the maximum amount of plays for follow-up turns. But I mean, how ridiculous is that? Even with an interrupted combo line that doesn't do the adventure stuff, we still set up for the follow-up turn the Ragged Gloves, the Ancient Cloak, the Torrent Scale, as well as the Denier and Mally. We want to send the Mally from hand to the graveyard, keeping one in the deck to be able to summon potentially later. Also using Silent Boots to search up the Fog Blade, making sure we have, again, just kind of trying to maximize our disruption here, right? Gonna use Fog Blade on the Wagon here for sure. Sometimes getting the Wagon is enough to stop their combo line, but as you can see from Ronan's hand here, they're holding Soul Piercer and a Motorbike, so... Oh, also, I'm gonna use DPE on the Wagon here, and this is an interaction I did not know about. So if you pop the Super Heavy Samurai monster that Soul Piercer is trying to equip to, it actually goes to the graveyard from the hand. I did not know that. I did not know that before this duel. I thought that it would just kind of reveal itself and then go back into the hand. I'm not sure about the exact ruling on this. I think the idea is that, because if you try to activate an equip spell and then the target leaves the field, right, the equip spell will end up going to the graveyard. But the difference there, to me anyway, is that the equip spell you're placing on the field, but Soul Piercer you're revealing from your hand. That's why I thought Soul Piercer would go back to the hand. But apparently, and this might even be a difference between TCG and OCG rulings, I don't know. But apparently the ruling is that a card that is attempting to equip, even if it is from the hand, will end up going to the graveyard if the target is trying to equip to goes to the graveyard before it resolves and equips. So, actually, again, I hugely dodged the Soul Piercer there. Was not expecting that at all. Granted, Ronan's got the Motorbike for the Wakuji anyway, so they'll definitely still have plays, but cool to know. Cool to know. Did not know that before this game. So, yeah, Big Benki gets to add another Soul Piercer here. Soul Gaia Booster coming down. Soul Piercer equipping before we sync off for... This was Assault Stardust, right? Or Excel Stardust, right? Yeah. So at this point, I won't lie. At this point, I kind of assumed I was just going to lose the duel. And I held my toggle on off while I just, kind of chatted with chat, because again, remember, this was during a stream, so I do tend to play worse on stream for sure. Some people have asked me why I don't stream myself playing in more tournaments. That's the main reason why. If I stream, it's 100% going to affect my play. Not that I mind a lot at the time, but in any case, this was definitely a case where that happens, for something we'll see coming up here in a little bit, I think. So, Scales for the Piercer, for the Scarecrow F to discard the Wagon that was added and bring back the Soul Piercer. Now these two are going to end up overlaying for... Is this Merrymaker? Yeah, Merrymaker. I was going to say, it's got to be Merrymaker or Geargate X. I don't know what other rank 4 you'd go for here. I mean, I know this deck plays Baguska, but obviously I don't have the kind of board state where you'd want to play Baguska. Now they're going to Merrymaker for Sargus and Sargus for the Regulus. Regulus, of course, is going to equip Soul Piercer. Baronef is going to pop my DPE, and you might notice I didn't activate DPE's effect to bring itself back on the next standby phase. That's what I get for holding my toggle on off and not paying attention while reading chat. Yeah, and not having the CPE definitely is going to matter here, for sure, but... Anyway, they battle in. Try to go in for lethal. I'm going to use the Fog Blade here. Try to bring back the Ragged Gloves. Now, the Baron can negate the Fog Blade, and that's fine. And you think this would be lethal here. However, because I banished a card, I get to bring back Torn Scales and take that chump hit there. So, another reason I had my toggle set on off is, again, I thought I was just going to lose. But then I didn't even realize that Chain Link would play out that way, to be totally honest with you. So... Zeus coming down, obviously going to be super scary, paired with a couple of Omnis. Gryphon Rider, not necessarily the best draw, but I don't even really need to have good draws here, right? I can H-Click for the Torn Scales. Torn Scales send the Gryphon Rider. This will force the Regulus, so there's one of the Omnis down, right? Regulus also, of course, being equipped will mean that the Soul Piercer gets to search, adding Scales. Was that a second Scales, actually? I think it is. Or did that get put back in the deck? Huh, I must have gotten put back in the deck, but... So Zeus will end up getting forced here. I'm still going to Denier, put back the Mally, activate the Ragged Gloves F to set up a Fog Blade, I assume? Yeah, Fog Blade in my graveyard. This will proc my Torn Scales to come back, and now I can overlay for... the Break Sword. I'm going to use Break Sword's effect. I misplayed here because I thought I had 2 Phantom Knights I could bring back in my graveyard with the Break Sword, but if you look, it's only the Torn Scales. I thought I had the Ancient Cloak in here still, as well as the Ragged Gloves, but no, they both ended up getting banished earlier, so that was my fault for not checking the graveyard. Again, just overall sloppy play on my end. I definitely will not deny it. But that does not mean that I am done here. I get to Mally for Mally, Fogblade F to bring back the Rusty Bardish. Putting the Mally in attack mode here, yet another huge misplay on my part. So, because I thought it was going to be linking it off, but, no, I didn't have another body to link it with. Rusty Bardish can't be linked. Just period. It's part of its, yeah, it's the last sentence there, so. Alright, Ronan going to special the Scales, but I've got the Fog Blade all set up for that, and I was really hoping their second card in hand was another Wakushi, but thankfully it was not. At this point, I realized, like, wait a second, I might actually win this duel. This duel, I feel I frankly had absolutely no business winning here. Alright. Droll is going to come down after we add the Silent Boots, but that should be fine. I don't think I need to add anything else this turn. Well, I would have liked to have added, like, a, you know... Warden's Brain. What is it? What is the card? I can't think of it. I would have liked to have added, like, another Phantomized Fogblade, but then I realized, oh wait, I just have Lethal here. Because I can go into Nightmare Unicorn and then Access Code Talker. And even without the Rusty Bardish on board, this Access Code will be enough for Lethal in this situation. So, like, good God. What a game here. Holy shit. Generally speaking, as a Phantom Knight player, even going first would be weary about how often I can win against Super Heavy Samurai when they have multiple combo starters in hand, like Ronan did here. And especially after the misplays that I made, I was like, surely there's no way. But we did it. We actually somehow managed to come back anyway. And again, as you can see, it's not like I had a whole lot of like super specific tech. I didn't even draw my Drolls, did I? I'm very sure I didn't see a single Droll during that whole game. And yet, we were still able to come away with a victory through a couple of misplays against the super scary deck of this current meta. So, Ronan Totem, thank you very much for coming by, hanging out, and dueling. We, of course, still have more games to show off here. Let us go into the next one. Alright, Pickled Placebo going to be our next opponent. They are on a branded list. Branded, of course, while not a new deck, is still very, very much a meta-relevant one right now. Going to be taking the first turn again here. This hand's looking really, really good. We opened the Rite of Aramesir. Going to start with the Rhoda for the Torn Scales. Was a little anxious about Droll following that Rhoda, but nah, it ended up being fine. Alright, another Maxi against the Rite of Aramesir, but thankfully we once again have the counter. This time it's going to be the Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Alright, Rite is going to bring out the Adventure token, of course, as well as the Fateful Adventure. Going to normal some of the Torn Scales. Can't use the effect because I've used Rite, but I've already got the Silent Boot in my hand, so no need to fret there. Gonna go ahead and set up the Gryphon here. Of course, discarding the Dracoback. And now I can special the boots that I'm going to link into Cherubini. Yet again, we're actually not going to Cherubini for Water Enchantress, because, duh, we already have our adventure set up here. So, I'll just send Ragged Gloves again, just in case I need something else, you know? I love putting that Ragged Gloves in the graveyard if you have an extra mill. It's so nice, knowing you have that extra insulation if need be. Gonna add and then pitch the Fogblade, setting up the, or the Wings, rather, setting up the Fogblade in the graveyard. Rusty Bardish coming down here. Bardish F is going to activate to set up the Fogblade on my field now, as well as the Ancient Cloak in the yard. Wings F will bring back the Ragged Gloves. And then I'll use Fogblade to bring back the Ancient Cloak. Of course, we're going to want to overlay those two for Leviair, so that way they go back into the graveyard, because they would both normally be banished again, but... Leviair F to detach and bring back the Torn Scales to also have that in our graveyard too. It's so nice. The Leviair is so nice for... And also essential for setting up your graveyard, right? For having those follow-up plays. Definitely going to want to make sure that you end up doing that. So, here's Vert sending the Fusion Destiny, which sends the Denier and Mally, which summons out the DPE. And there we have it. Again, DPE, Gryphon, and Fogblade might not seem like a lot of disruption going into the opponent's turn, but it is most often the case good enough. Branded in High Spirits here is going to add the Cartesia. Fusion deployment coming down, revealing Mirror Jade for the Albaz. I'm actually going to end up using my DPE here. I would rather save my negates, and especially against a deck like Branded, the pops are not always the most useful, so I definitely want to make sure I can pop here while it is very useful. And again, the pop is effectively negating Albaz there because Albaz has to fuse with itself. So now I can use the Fogblade against the Cartesia here. Alright, Placebo's going to set the Tragedy before passing back over. Oh, and then yeah, you might notice Cartesia was not able to attack. That is because of the Fogblade. But one thing to know about Fogblade is that while you can't attack the monster it's equipped to, or rather, while the equipped monster cannot attack, you also cannot equip... Oh my god. While the equipped monster is not able to attack itself, you also cannot attack the equipped monster. There we go. I knew I'd get that right eventually. So... Alright, gonna try to use Dracoback on the Cartesia. It'll chain to try to fuse that Dramaturge, but we can just Gryphon Rider here, and I'll even use the Gryphon... Or the Adventure, just set the Gryphon Rider back up again. Rindbrum gets to bring back the Albaz. That's fine. It's not a big deal. Well, actually, no, this is a big deal because we're out of disruption here, right? Yeah, so Albaz is actually going to resolve here. Fusing with the Bardish to summon out another Mirror Jade there. But yeah, like Mirror Jade, you know, one disrupt, it's ultimately not going to be enough. Gonna use the Fateful Adventure F. Mirror Jade will fire off its own effect on the DPE. I'm gonna add back that Wandering Gryphon Rider and summon it to the field. And from here, I'm just gonna climb up to Access Code. This will go into Nightmare Unicorn along the way, which will spin back the Mirror Jade. Not that we really need to, you know, play around the Mirror Jade's effect anyway, because, you know, again, we are ultimately just going to win the duel this turn. Here's a Nightmare Unicorn. Using the F to pitch my Foolish, put back there Mirror Jade, and then, yeah, here is Access Code Talker. Again, showing just how easy it is to go into this OTK style line on the Crackback here, on the follow-up turn 3 after your turn 1. But to be fair, in Placebo's case, he also didn't open particularly great. Yeah, what was it, like double fusion deployment, Branded High Spirits, stuff like that. Definitely could have been a better hand for Branded there. So, thanks for coming by the stream, Placebo, and dueling. But we still have a couple more games to check out. Let's go into the next one here. 8bots is going to be our next opponent. 8bots is on Mannadium, as she's been lately. This time it's going to be Mannadium Sprite, which I've heard about this variant. I've had people ask me about it, but I've never actually encountered it in a duel before, so... We also won a lot of coin flips. I won't deny, we did win a lot of coin flips during these viewer duels, because holy cow. I remember that too, actually. Well, I would hope I do. It was just yesterday, but... Oh, so here I'm actually going to Droll against Maxx. This is actually one of the decks that can afford to do that. Granted, I won't be able to set up my adventure line, but I can still set up PK stuff plus the DPE here, which I think is definitely better than, you know, just not playing anything under Maxx. Well, here's the thing. There was an argument to wait after a couple of draws and then Droll, so that way I could set the adventure line, right? The problem I have with that is that it would require me to, well, give a couple of draws, right, before actually firing off the Droll. And honestly, if I think about it, I think I value keeping 8bots off of a couple more cards as opposed to giving her a couple of cards than being on Droll myself, right? So it's like, just kind of, well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, there's an argument either way. But I ultimately elected to just go for DPE plus Fogblade and then pass after that. We also have the Maxx, so there's definitely hopefully going to be a world where that comes into. Calarium comes down, I'm going to use the DPE on it. Again, if we're popping a field spell as it's resolving, then it won't resolve. Alright, Triple Attack is taking my DPE. Normal summoning Sprite Blue, very surprising. For the Elf. Elf F for blue, I definitely want to Fogblade this. Mostly because if I don't, then they're just going to get their Sprite line and start searching, and we definitely do not want that to happen. Setting Abscission and then passing here. Yeah, because even if you Abscission and get Calarium, you've already Calariumed this turn, so... Alright, here we get to set up the Rusty Bardish, or use Rusty Bardish rather, to set up the Shade Brigandine. Gonna get my Fogblade out of the yard. Let's do that before we obviously flip up the Shade Brigandine, because, well, we need to. Oh yeah, using Ancient Cloak F to give my Bardish a little bit of a buff here. Here's Mally and Denier. Now we'll overlay the Cloak and Denier for our Leviair. That way, actually, both of those end up going... Well, Denier would have ended up going to the yard anyway, but... Now we get to bring back our gloves. Oh, I decided to go for... I should have done this sooner, actually. But I decided to go for the Water Enchantress here just to be able to bounce the last face-down card. Which, again, I really should have just done this to begin with, but... And, of course, it ended up being an Abscission anyway. Alright, from there we're going to pivot into the Nightmare Unicorn, use the F to get rid of the Elf, and finally, we get to bring back the Mally. Although I didn't even need to use my follow-up Mally, I really could have linked... Well, I would have had to have linked the Adventure Token into Link Spider, then Link Spider plus Nightmare Unicorn could become Access Code Talker, but here, nah, we're good enough. Alright, GG's, 8bots, GG's. We do have one more game coming up here. Let's go into that. Okay, and our final opponent is going to be on Nemleria. And they are Oni Girly. I actually got wrecked by this deck. By Oni on this deck the last time we had viewer duels. And this is going to be my going second game, so... Alright, Dreaming Nemleria is going to come down first for the Dream Tower. I decided to just Ash Blossom this and be done with it. I also considered Maxxing here because I was trying to remember if the Dream Beasts are summons that start a chain or ones that don't, and they're ones that didn't. So I decided not to Maxi because I thought it might be too much of a hedge, but I really should have because I do end up missing out on a couple of draws as a result. Also, Maxi is not always very helpful in this matchup. There's a lot of times you're only going to end up getting one draw off of it. Second Diffusion Destiny, definitely not an ideal draw. Go to Torn Scales, pitch to Mally. I actually should have pitched the extra Fusion Destiny, but we'll be able to amend this mistake here in a little bit. I could use a Torn Scale effect. Again, I use it after normal summoning, so I am not using Sheriff Beanie to set up the Water Enchantress. Rather, I'm sending the Ragged Gloves. Alright, Torn Scale gets summoned itself. Wings activating for the boots. Gonna overlay these two for Leviair, I imagine this is. Nope, it's Break Sword. Oh, yeah, because I really just wanted to get rid of the continuous spell here. But, yeah, the Nemleria Dream Defender Coet, which I'm sure I'm butchering that pronunciation, actually has that effect to protect from effects that target in particular. So, But yeah, definite priority here is 100% getting rid of the Dream Tower, because I do not need Oni adding multiple cards per turn there. But I'm going to use the Nightmare Unicorn on the other Dream Defender first, because I know I can Fusion Destiny and DPE, and then use that to get rid of the continuous spell, so. Alright, Ghost Ogre does end up eating the Nightmare Unicorn there, but that's fine, you know. It's all good. Worse things have happened. I get a battle over the Dream Defender, not realizing that the Dreaming Tower actually does protect it. I totally didn't even read that effect, but... Whew, finally getting rid of that spell card. It's so annoying. I mean, this deck isn't annoying, but that one particular spell card there was ended up being very annoying to try to get rid of, but... Alright, DPE coming back to us here. Only gonna throw down the Small World to ultimately add another copy of Dreaming Nemleria. That'll come down to try and use the effect in order to set up the continuous spell, but I'm going to use the Fog Blade on the Coet. That'll force it, the targeting, negation effect, and now I can DPE on the Nemleria itself, and because it's no longer on the field, it cannot resolve. Alright, into phase passing back over to me. Things are definitely looking up. Gonna flip the CPE to attack mode after I bring back Denier, and then of course the Mali as well. Oh, we do actually end up getting to shuffle back the excess Mali anyway, so it actually did not end up mattering too much, so we didn't discard the second Diffusion Destiny. Alright, you might be a little confused as to why I'm going for the Vert Anaconda here. The reason is that I am just climbing up to Access Code Talker. I just needed a link to get up there, and it's like, I've already used Fusion Destiny, so Vert doesn't have any other applications for the remainder of the duel no matter what, so I might as well use that as my stand-in link to here. Also, Oni doesn't have any dark monsters in the graveyard, so Dark the Dark Charmer Gloomy does not end up taking anything here. Alright, Access Code to pop this Dream Defender before flipping the DPE to attack, and then now we can swing in for what I thought was lethal, both in the duel and now, but both times I apparently failed to do proper math and was 100 points off. Thankfully for me, Oni just rips a Droll and nothing relevant, and that will end up being the end of the game there. So, thank you everybody who came by for viewer duels, as always as ever. I love it. Also, I've already done this before many times on stream and once in a previous YouTube video, but I'll do it here again. Gotta give Oni a huge extra shout out for an incredible amount of gifted subs recently on stream. So that was awesome. Thank you very much, Oni. Yeah, that'll go ahead and do it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. Let us now move to the outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.